Now, think of America's Wild West and you'll probably think of cowboys, rodeos and shootouts, but should we also think of innovative ideas to tackle youth crime before it even happens? The state of Colorado runs a host of so-called early intervention programs. That's projects aimed at preventing children becoming involved in crime. And tomorrow, Nottingham will follow its lead by proclaiming itself an early intervention city. Our political correspondent, Norman Smith, has been to Colorado to see how it all works.
Colorado, the old Wild West, where the one-time hard-bitten pioneers of America's frontier lands have found a new, softer frontier to pioneer. The Sunday Rodeo. It's hardly Asbo, Britain, but here too they struggle with antisocial behaviour. Their answer, not crackdowns, but help for children when they're young. This isn't the sort of place you'd expect liberal, touchy-feely sort of policies for dealing with difficult youngsters. This is cowboy country, where if anything you'd expect a tough, no-nonsense approach. But they've decided that simply isn't working. Enter the new lawmen, who decided enough was enough. High-powered attorneys, they began funding schemes to help difficult children and stop them ending up on the wrong side of the law.
One of the things lawyers see is the same folks, the same violators over and over again, and they often start at a young age. And you really get the sense pretty quickly, I was a prosecutor for years, that it's too late for those kids. And so when we started to look for places where early childhood programs could prevent eventual criminal behavior, we pretty quickly landed on the Nurse-Family Partnership.
What's funny though is that when we first started, we thought we would be intervening with older kids, and as we started to read the research, we then ended up prenatally. So as we saw really where the biggest impacts could happen, we ended up before the babies were even born.
I want the person that's most at risk, the mother who's going to give birth to the child who is most at risk. That's where we can make the difference. That's where we can make the most difference in that generation, in the future generation. That's where we can make the most difference in cost savings for our society.
There you go. Yay! Good job. Are you ready? You ready for it? Are you? Hi, Amanda. How are you? How's it going today?
Amanda, a young single mum, receives regular visits from Nurse Valerie, just one part of Colorado's early intervention package, because she may struggle bringing up young Nolan.
Around the time I got pregnant, his dad started getting physically and verbally, emotionally abusive towards me. And because I was pregnant, I didn't want him to get in trouble, so I didn't say anything for a long time. Things started getting really bad. I ended up in the hospital once. I decided that I'm not going to raise my son in this kind of environment that I grew up in, that my son's going to have a better chance, and I'm going to break the cycle.
There you go. Now ride him, cowboy. Ride him, ride him, ride him.
Val actually came to my house. I remember the first day I met her, I was pregnant, and it was just so neat to have someone else come into my broken home and just, you know, just encouraging me. And she was just such a cheerful person to just be around. And, you know, I didn't have that mom to go to and say, Mom, I'm feeling sick today. What's this mean? I didn't have that, but I had Val.
The Colorado General Assembly, where taxpayers' money is not to be wasted. The power brokers here are a hard-headed lot, but they aim to spend tens of millions of dollars every year on early intervention because their figures show it'll save them $6 for every $1 they invest.
It has saved so many costs in child abuse treatment, in prison costs, in health care for the mom and the baby, in special education placements for the children. There's no question there's huge savings.
Was there any concern from people who thought that you should not be intervening in the lives of the family, that the state should stay out of individual families' lives?
People were worried that there would be government intervention in the family, and the family should be kept private. and people were afraid that it would grow to be a huge public program and then it wouldn't work very well. And what we worked hard to do was to make it voluntary so that parents have to want to participate, and then the government could help with covering some of the costs.
What changed attitudes here was Columbine.
The aftermath of another high school massacre, America asks why.
Alongside the grieving, the Columbine massacre prompted a fundamental rethink, a determination it should never be allowed to happen again, and a public recognition that it made more sense to intervene early when such children were still young and before it was too late. In this class in nearby Littleton, the result is these children now receive a very different sort of education. Here at this nursery school, they don't just teach the sort of things you'd expect, such as reading, learning to spell, that sort of thing, but they also teach the youngsters about anger management, handling their feelings, learning to get on with people.
Oh, friends, I'm just a little frustrated.
Meet Dinah, a rather grumpy dragon who's apparently not averse to the odd bit of antisocial behaviour. But Dinah has proved an effective way of teaching these youngsters, mostly from low-income families or difficult homes, how to behave and how to calm down. It's one of a series of similar such classes run throughout primary schools, and it's proved hugely popular with parents.
Think of your happy place. It might be at the park.
Dinosaur School is a very interactive, fun class for kids who have had a lot of issues in dealing with their emotions and being able to express themselves and understand their anger. When Columbine happened, it became apparent that we had to do something, and we really needed to focus on the prevention end. That there were so many kids on the opposite end that were ending up in being incarcerated and having drug and alcohol problems and violence issues that we really needed to focus when they were young.
Colorado, the land where the buffalo may still roam, but where they've rethought the old ways of dealing with difficult youngsters. The ins and outs of politics can make it difficult to risk taking a new line or a long-term approach, but similar schemes are now being tried in Britain. And in Colorado, they've decided you either help youngsters early or risk them taking a fall.
Norman Smith reporting. There's more from Norman on our website at the usual address. Later in the programme, I'll be kicking over the traces of this week's 10p tax row with the Lib Dems Treasury spokesman Vince Cable. That's after the Politics Show, where you are.